So this may take usually a few minutes. So do you have any questions so far? I'm going to show you as soon as it gets here.
It's interesting that you show me the patient version.
Mhm.
In the context where I worked, we had a bunch of different options for the patient formatting. One of the things that are worth mentioning is that you do not want to give the patient any kind of question that is left up to interpretation. You have to give them questions or their specific answers and only that specific answer. If you want a patient form, that works. I think there was a handful of questions in there that were slightly interpretation based, but most of them are actually conforming to that concept where you have to answer exactly as they are. Like for instance, again, things like date of birth, you cannot really mess it up. But as you mentioned, that information has to be compliant with a bunch of things. So you kind of just remove those so that you don't have to be in that ballpark, which is interesting. I've never figured that one of the solutions is to just remove the information that's problematic and just focus on helping the patient via circumstantial information they can give that's not particularly identifiable but potentially diagnosable. That's a very interesting approach, definitely.
All right. So yes, you see like our technology has evolved over time exactly through that. We face challenges, and the simplest solution is the most efficient. It is infinitely easier for you to have a system, by the way, that's online. It's the best. It's way better than having your own private server. And it's not the most secure, but the level of paranoia that exists in all these systems. And by the way, when a hacker comes, like not even your private server is going to be protected. Like when the hackers have become so, as you already have seen, people can go and like use the cameras in your house to spy on you. It's the people don't have a rational, and they definitely don't have actual understanding of the degree of technology we're talking today. If you look at hacking and AI in the future, it's going to be way easier to have access to everything. So maybe it is the option. But as far as the legal reasons why people would not use the technology we have, that is a main concern that people bring me. Is like,
Yeah, that's the thing. But there's when it comes to hacking, there are ways of handling that specific scenario in a way that you can limit the amount of damage. You cannot stop the damage. You can limit the damage. For instance, if you air gap the server information from the actual service, or for instance, you create a custom Linux service, but that's just a lot of work for something that is quite minor. That's one of the reasons why public infrastructure is generally vulnerable to that kind of stuff. But there are things as engineers and as programmers we can do to just at least get rid of the low level stuff. And like if it's a targeted attack, then yeah, you can justify it. Say it's some kind of Chinese spy trying to destroy the infrastructure. Like it's the millionth time I hear this. But the point is, you can still do a lot with very little when it comes to protection of information and infrastructure just on like a basic level. It's just that, for instance, you don't want to expose JavaScript on your website. You don't want to expose CSS code and links that are direct to your folder inventories